What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Postgame Podcast. And here's Cory Smith here with Charlie Gribble. Charlie, about as tough of a loss as you could possibly take. I know, look, Monday was tough because you were out of it before you even got to like 10 minutes left in the game. Knew that game was going to go the way that it did on the road. The effort for NC State, I thought, was significantly better in this game, especially on the offensive end. Definitely not from the defensive end in terms of stopping players in the paint, in terms of not getting after the boards. NC State gives up 20 offensive rebounds in this game, but really, despite all that, despite some struggles there, NC State's able to hit a ton of threes in the second half, able to get things going in the second half offensively to put Miami down by 7 points with 52 seconds left to go in this game, and NC State still salts it away at the very end there. Miami able to go on an 8-0 run at the end to take a 77-76 lead. The free throws down the stretch, we'll talk about those. We'll talk about the issues for NC State, but just your thoughts on this one before we really jump into things, man.
Yeah, I thought the game was over. I was sitting there crafting up stuff for post-game saying, big win. It was a chance for NC State to move into third in the ACC, and it just felt like it was a complete meltdown there at the end. It felt like really Miami was imposing their size on the inside. Malik Renaud, who we'll wait to post-game or on his radio show on Thursday, said we got to find a way to guard him and get him in foul trouble. Did neither of those. 26 points, 6 rebounds tonight. It just, Miami was able to enforce their identity, and whether the NC State team has one or not is yet to be seen. But Miami stuck with their game plan. Obviously, they did show their press late. The 2 turnovers at the end, I think will haunt NC State for sure. But also, you had other chances to win it. Despite all of that, you said we'll mention the free throws later, but Quadir Copeland missing the front end of a 1-and-1. That's going to come back to bite you. And then, whether the foul's in the room with us or not, Cory, the call on Darian Williams on the Washington 3-point attempt there at the very end. The fact of the matter is it shouldn't have even come down to that, but also that's another tough call that didn't go your way. But plenty of opportunities for NC State to win this one, just didn't take any of those opportunities.
Yeah, part of my thing is it shouldn't have ever come down to that in the first place. You had opportunities to win it. Quadir Copeland, if he hits 2 free throws, we're not talking about this at all. NC State goes up by 4 points, and there's if you foul the 3-point shooter there, it doesn't really matter in the first place because they hit 3 and it doesn't matter. But he didn't hit the free throws. NC State, if you don't turn it over twice in the last 52 seconds. And Miami should have hit a wide open 3. Should have hit a wide open 3 on the corner and didn't end up hitting that. And NC State got lucky there, and then you just give it right back. So this is about as frustrating of a loss as you can possibly get. We'll talk about all of the things that it led to as well for NC State here. But before we really jump into things, I want to remind our listeners, as always, visit our iTunes, Google Play Store, and YouTube, anywhere that you get the podcast. Give us a like, subscribe, get notifications so you can jump in with us each and every single time we do one of these live post-game. We'll talk about anything and everything when it comes to the games. We'll also have our live podcast for Monday nights too, so we'll be able to do all those different things. But make sure that you check us out. Also, as always, if you haven't checked us out, Pack Power 247, head over there, subscribe. Right now running 50% off still to this point, 2 months for $1 if you sign up now to check us out for the next 2 months as NC State tries to make a run towards March Madness. We'll see. Will Wade saying tonight can't not exactly happy with the effort tonight, but the fact that he doesn't feel like they're right now an NCAA tournament team. So they still have more work to do to get there. A team that is 18-8 right now and has a chance to be, to get to a 10th win in ACC play, you would think would be one of those teams. But as of right now, still on the outside looking in as far as, all right, if you're going to actually clinch something, still feels like this team is playing for seeding. But if you fall apart the way that they did tonight in any other games moving forward, it's certainly not going to be a good look for NC State trying to get to that point.
Yeah,
right.
Nevertheless, the Georgia Tech game you look back to, but man, if you're sitting right on that bubble, or you're looking at a top 4 seeding for the ACC tournament, the double bye. Oh man, these last 52 seconds. This isn't the last we've seen these 52 seconds. We'll probably the weeks to come.
This team, I mean, quite frankly, this team should be 11-2 in ACC play. You got absolutely demolished by Louisville. You got manhandled by Virginia earlier on in the season. But this team, there's, as Will Wade continues to mention it, there's no excuse for losing to Georgia Tech at home. And there's no excuse. Sure, there's an excuse to losing to Miami at home. Miami's a damn good team. There's no excuse to losing to Miami the way that you did tonight. And I genuinely, I know Will Wade talked about it tonight, said it's on him. At the same time, he talked about the fact that he saw a lack of effort from the players, was frustrated with the players in practice before all this. But this, to me, the late game situation, yes, Whittier Copeland missing free throws, yes, a foul on Darian Williams, like you said, even if it's in the room with us right now, I don't know that it is. But a lot of that comes down to Will Wade not calling timeouts late. Comes down to you not having your guys ready for those scenarios. He talked about it. They run it all the time in practice. But if you're not able to do this in a game, that's about as frustrating of a way to lose a game as you could possibly get. And this comes down to coaching. It comes down to finishing a game the way that you're supposed to finish it. And Will Wade not calling a timeout there late. I asked him about it afterwards, and he said, looking back, kind of wish I had, but at the same time, you practice all these scenarios, all these things. He felt like his players knew all these things. Well, I mean, when it's as big of a game as this one is, when it's as big of a moment, as big of an opportunity, and you see those things kind of falling apart down the stretch, you've got to be able to, you've got to do the right things there. You got to pull the right trigger, push the right buttons there at the end. And I didn't feel like NC State did that.
Yeah, I think the one knack I have against Coach Wade, obviously, it's a brand new regime. You like who he brought in, and overall, I think if you're sitting here and you're an NC State fan right now, after what you saw last year, you're happy. But it kind of goes back to the Kansas game too. Another late game opportunity with no timeout, and obviously that game ends how it did. And then this game, another opportunity to call a timeout, you didn't, and we saw kind of how it ended. So. That's just kind of the one thing I haven't liked about his coaching. Late game scenarios, can always call a timeout. He had 2 left at that point. Especially after the first one, you can't get an inbounds play in. At least run a set. To get a guy an open look in the middle of the floor, particularly a guard. So Miami would foul. But I think that's really the only knock I would have on Wade so far. Is this that Kansas game, late game scenario, didn't call a timeout. Now you have the same thing with Miami, and it really doesn't matter, how experienced the guards are or how experienced this team is in the NCAA tournament. I just think at some point you got to step in as a coach and call a timeout and run a play. Even if it's a play that doesn't work, it gives your team a chance to reset, kind of relax, calm down, second to breathe. But I'll be curious to see what he says about it, kind of moving forward. But I can't think you could say he. As well, also, you'll see it on our website, but he also said, he saw this one coming, with the effort he took in practice. He saw it coming. Well, if you saw it coming, maybe, a timeout would have helped things. I mean, I don't think you can say that you've practiced it in practice, you've drilled it in practice, and you've done the 6-minute games that he stresses about. And then in the same breath say, you saw it coming just with the effort that he's seen. So, I don't think you can say both. I think it's going to be the one knock. I think if you're looking at Will Wade in totality in year one is the 2 crucial games you needed to have. I feel like it was Kansas at home and now this one.
Yeah, and another good point. Pat pointed out here, said Coach is a joker with the media and a silent joker when it matters the most. I wasn't actually pointing that out, but he said this team has blown leads at SMU and Clemson and escaped due to the other team not being able to finish.
It was the same as SMU too.
Yep.
You were doing Copeland missing the front end 1-on-1, but you're able to get the defensive stop. But
yeah. And then the same thing, choked away Georgia Tech, Miami, and the Kansas games, and those are all games to me where it felt like NC State wins those games, and we're not talking at all right now about NCAA tournament bubble. We're not talking at all about, the frustration of playing at home. But, many of the biggest losses so far this season have come at home. The Kansas loss in overtime where you had a chance to pull that one out. Virginia, obviously, early on. And then now the Georgia Tech and Miami losses, just as devastating as you could possibly get for NC State when you're trying to, I know Will Wade didn't necessarily say top 4 seed in the ACC tournament. That wasn't the goal. But, he did say he wants to get back to the top of the ACC, wants to be competing in the ACC. You want to get to the ACC tournament, have a chance to win the tournament, the whole thing. The best way to do that is get the top 4 seed. And NC State was in prime position to do that. And you really, really, we'll just say shat the bed today. When you had a big opportunity to do that against a very good team in Miami at home.
Yeah, I mean, up 7 with 52 seconds left.
Yeah.
It's hard to swallow. It's definitely hard to swallow, and it's also another opportunity. If you look back at Kansas, if you had that Kansas win and you won here tonight, I mean, I still think we'll look fine after this game. We'll see how it shakes out in the morning. But if you add those 2 wins, you're probably a top 25 team, and you're probably well past the bubble. So. It feels like, you're right there. You're 6 or 7 inches away, and it's just you're falling short, which kind of sucks. It's, no moral victory, but it's not a scenario NC State can say they've been in, in close games and against these high caliber programs. But I mean, if you look at it, Miami, Jay Lucas, it's another year 1 program. They brought in a lot of guys through the portal. It's a brand new regime there. So really no excuse, when you look at it for this Miami game, because you got 2 programs in year 1, Miami obviously has been terrible the last couple of years, and NC State last year obviously was not that great. So there really wasn't an excuse to point out, because it's a brand new roster over in Coral Gables as well. But I mean, yeah, Miami finished 2 of 10 from the field to end the game. They still were able to go on an 8-0 run. Obviously, you knew the size was going to be an issue, but 40 total rebounds to 29 for NC State. 20 on the offensive glass. And I think I pointed this out to you, Cory, during the game, but Renault, I mean, him and Uday down low, they're gonna be trouble. I think it's taken them a while to kind of figure some things out, but man, it's a physical and very tall and demanding team that Jay Lucas has, and it's been part of the reason why the ACC's been better. I think, Miami, NC State, Virginia were kind of like the 3 headlining teams as part of this resurgence, so it definitely would have been a nice one to have. I mean, it might even sneak up to a quad 1 if you'd won it, because Miami's coming off a win at Carolina. They still got some tough games coming up, but definitely would have been a nice opportunity. Definitely a high quad 2 win for NC State, but that is now gone sideways. So now it just puts more pressure later on in the schedule, and you're playing tougher teams. I mean, it's not like the schedule lightens up. So I think what's concerning is, man, if you had a 7-8 point lead like you did tonight there at the end, and you can't get it done, what's to say you're going to be able to do it against these tougher teams? And it just leaves, less room for error. I think if you had this game, you might have been fine losing a game like Carolina, a game like Duke, whatever's left on the schedule, you've been fine with losing maybe 1 or 2 of those. But now it just, shortens the air for you if you're right now.
Oh yeah, this was an absolute must win if you wanted to accomplish those goals. If you wanted to get inside the top 4 of the ACC, if you wanted to go ahead and start playing for seeding in the NCAA tournament, like this game would have solidified that for you. No matter what you did down the stretch, I think they feel comfortable about going on the road at Notre Dame. They feel comfortable about playing Stanford at home, but Stanford's got some pieces too that are elite as well. So it's gonna
get 40 on this defense.
Yeah, you let a shooter get hot, and it's going to be, it's going to be a really bad night. The thing to me that I take away from this game, and I took away from, you go all the way back to Pitt, which, NC State wins that game, but it definitely was not the way that you wanted to win it. You go back to the game on Monday night against Louisville. NC State has just been getting absolutely punished in the paint over and over and over again. Obviously, the Louisville game, shooters got hot from outside, 15 3-pointers in that game between 2 different players. But you still saw, like, they were able to win at every level in that game. Miami, not a ton of threes tonight, only 3 of 17 from 3-point range, but 56 points in the paint against NC State. 56 out of your 77 points. came in the paint tonight. This was a game where Miami was just going straight after the switches. Every time they saw somebody switch that was smaller on them, on the bigs or on the guards, they just knew they were going to be more physical, drive to the basket and finish there. And they did it over and over and over again in this game. Malik Renaud, as you mentioned, 26 points, but 12 of 19 overall. He took 2 3-pointers in this game. Like, he just didn't have to take a ton of threes. Knew that if he was going to be able to get the ball, he was going to beat the guy off the dribble and get straight to the basket. And, like, that's what they did over and over and over again tonight. And I think this is, again, for NC State, like, you've got it. Like, again, you don't have more bigs here. But, like, maybe putting Scotty Boubé in, as a couple of people have mentioned on this. Maybe, I don't know what the answer is here. And clearly Will Wade didn't know tonight because he said his team doesn't have an identity. Mentioned the fact that he just doesn't feel like, outside of taking jump shots or trying to hit a ton of 3-pointers, they don't have an identity. And all of those things were working tonight. You were able to hit shots. They shot almost 50% from the field. If you take away the 2 3-pointer attempts at the end, which neither one of them were going to go in at the end of the first half or the end of the second half, the end of the game scenario, like, NC State shoots 52% from the field in this game. Like, that's how well you shot from the field. You shot, 38% from 3. That's about what you're averaging, and you take away those 2 3-pointers again at the end of the first half and end of the second half, and they go 9 of 22 from 3. You'll live with that every day of the week. It's just the fact that you're just getting absolutely punished inside by opposing teams, and you're having to try to figure it out on the offensive end of the floor. You're having to keep that up, along with the fact that they're just not getting out in transition fast enough. Like, all those things are still factors for this team, and it's just not getting better. And I think that's the biggest question mark, is like, how do you fix that now at this point? Because you don't have more bigs. You don't have more guys that are buying into physicality here. Like, none of those things are changing for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think, obviously, like you said, offensively, the numbers were fine. I thought it was the Matt Able show in the first half, and then it was the Paul McNeil / Ven-Allen and Lubin show in the second half. Obviously, Able had 15 in the first half to lead NC State, and then Ven-Allen, Lubin, and Paul McNeil combined for 22 of what was 34 second half points for NC State. But yeah, I there is no answer. You kind of would have thought, if you're NC State, you would have loved to see a guy like Musa Sanye continuing to take the next steps. Only played 9 minutes tonight, and truth be told, sitting there courtside watching him, just was getting pushed off the block. I mean, he's a skinnier center, and obviously, Uday is probably the worst matchup for him possible. But I think it's the same problem that I hate to mention this team. It's the same problem that Carolina had last year with Lubin. While he's going to be extremely efficient like he was tonight, 7 for 9 from the floor, 17 points, 9 rebounds, I think is a great number as well. The problem is he's a 6'9" center. And that's your reality, and it's not going to change.
Not getting you enough defensively, yeah.
Not enough defensively, and that's reality right now. And when he's playing, 32 minutes, yes, he's going to give you some great output on the offensive end, but he's not going to do you anything on the defensive side of the floor. Yes, he had, I think it was 4 blocks tonight.
4 blocks in this game, yeah.
It was probably a season high, but still, that's 4 blocks on what was just an downright, just begrudgingly, just painfully to watch, just massacre in the paint.
Yeah.
I mean, 56 points to your 32. I'm glad he had 4 blocks, but it's just not going to be good enough. And I think that's been the concern for NC State fans was the concern and the problem since November, August. And I think even what Wade said, like, his team was small, was going to have to rotate efficiently, and the problem is you're not doing that. So I think any paint dominant team, anybody that's got a big 4 or 5 guy that's effective offensively, you're going to have a heyday against NC State, and that's just plain simple. And I think the competition that lies ahead has guys that are just like that. So
yeah,
I guess you're going to have to shoot better from 3. I guess to start out the gate. I know we started off 1 for 7 from 3 to start it. Maybe that's the answer, but there's nobody on this team right now that's going to be a shot blocking rim protector that you're going to need in this league and in the NCAA tournament, even if you make that. So I don't know. There's not a whole lot of options really. I mean, I really thought I was doing Musa. I liked his development going on, coming early on, but he's not going to give you anything offensively.
He
so
looks really sped up right now. Like every time he touches the ball, he looks like he's overthinking every possession he's getting there. And again,
but a fouling cack. I mean, he's going to get 3 or 4 fouls in 5 minutes. So I don't know where you go. I really don't. I think it just, I agree with Whale Wade. I think his team just looks soft. I think it took, Darian Williams getting a, off-ball technical foul for even him to wake up himself, but the entire team too.
Yeah.
So it has to take that, man. It's a sold-out crowd. I think Will Wade even said it post-game. He was like, I feel bad for our home crowd. I mean, we've lost now 3 conference games at home.
They didn't.
Yeah, flat out disappointing. And I know there was a lot of flack on the crowd against Virginia Tech, which was very understandable. Thought it was mute.
I think it was mostly just the student section in that one, yeah.
Yeah, definitely the student section. But I thought the crowd, including the student section, sounded great tonight. I thought the DJ was trying to get them more involved as well. I think that was the thing there. But can't blame the crowd. And the product that's, being seen on the floor right now is just extremely underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I posted a video actually like right before, the 1 minute. I think it was like right before the 1 minute mark, the crowd, how much they had gotten into it. NC State, responding with 11-0 run really felt like, they're getting like it was a cohesive unit, like between the fans and, the players and everybody kind of buying in, like, wanting to get back. But I mean, the one thing I'll add to here, Nick pointed this out, said Val appreciation post, give me 5 Vals. He's doing everything he can. Yeah. Look, I do agree. Like Ven-Allen Lubin, 17 points in this game, 7 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He was not the problem. Like, I'm not saying he was the problem in the least bit, but when you have teams that are driving by, like the issue to me tonight, and I kind of want to go back and watch it again, but the issue to me tonight was more about NC State's, from a defensive standpoint, from a guard standpoint, not being able to limit or at least, give a speed bump to Miami's guards. They were just driving, straight to the basket every single time and not having any, pushback. So yes, obviously, if you're losing down low to someone like Uday or, a big down low, sure. But when you're losing to guards the way that NC State was, and obviously Malik Renault is more of like a ball handling, forward anyways. It just, to me, I think that was the bigger issue tonight was them just not giving any kind of pushback to their guards and not having any kind of resistance there, not being physical enough in this game, which, the thing I will say to offset that too, by the way, like the only guy down the stretch, the only 2 guys down the stretch that really felt like they wanted this game or they understood the stakes of this game were Ven-Allen Lubin, which again, sure, the physical limitations for him, they exist. Yes, they exist. But again, he's doing everything he possibly can. He looked like he gave a damn about this game. And then Paul McNeil. McNeil, look, his offense has been great. He's been streaky at times, but when he gets going, he gets going. And the final 6 minutes of this game, 5 minutes of this game, wherever you want to kind of quantify it, wherever you want to start from, like the block that he had in transition, the fight that he had to get that rebound on the offensive end. Nobody else is getting offensive rebounds. NC State had 8 offensive rebounds the entire game. Paul McNeil had 1, but he looked like a maniac at the end, just trying to do everything he possibly could to get his team back in the game. And he dishes it out. I think it was Darian Williams that hit a 3 or hit a shot after Paul McNeil got that offensive rebound. But like you just saw like effort from the 2 of them down the stretch that I didn't see, especially in the last minute plus for NC State from other players on the court.
Yeah, it's a game that you had 19 lead changes, 10 in the first half, and NC State led this game for a total of 21 minutes and 32 seconds compared to Miami 10. That's just, underwhelming feeling. But I think the biggest difference, especially the last 2 games, has been the defensive scout or the switch up against Copeland. Obviously you had the great game against SMU, 16 assists. Now it feels like teams are kind of allowing him to shoot a little bit more. Finished with
he was one to your point. You said 1 of 7 for NC State to start. He was 1 of 4 of those at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, only 5 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 for 10 from the floor. they have realized, let's sag off a little bit of him, kind of focus on some other shooters and allow him to shoot. And right now it's kind of, earring its ugly head. I mean, he shot 1 for 5 from 3. I think I remember one of them, it ended up missing, and Will Wade's yelling post game or during the game, like, no, it's not the shot. That's terrible. It's terrible. So I think that's kind of been, a little bit of a minor thing that I think NC State needs to look out for moving forward, is that he's not there. Like, opposing defenses are putting him in situations to play make for himself instead of others. And I think, he's shown at times the ability to kind of, play make and do it himself, but he's not. I think for this team overall, you don't have an alpha. You brought in a guy like Darian Williams to be an alpha. Clearly, that has not come to suffice. He's obviously had great kind of spurts. I thought after his dead ball technical foul, he kind of showed up a little bit, but only finished with 11 points, 1 for 5 from 3.
Similar to the ending of Kansas too.
I thought he was settling a little bit more than you would have liked him to.
Yeah.
Only 3 assists, only 3 rebounds as well. I think NC State's in a good spot, at least on the defensive glass. If he's rebounding in the 7, 8, 9, kind of metrics, but thought he's not really an alpha either. So you're kind of looking for a guy to get you a go-to bucket, or you're looking for a consistent scoring option. And I mean, right now you really don't have one. Like you said, Paul's a little streaky. Once he's hot, he's really hot, and I'll commend him for it. But I honestly think Abel's 17 points tonight was his career high.
17 points is career high. Yeah.
I mean, but you're not getting that every game, and I think you brought in a certain cat or two to kind of be your main horseman on offense, and it's not working out. But I don't even really blame the offense for this game. It just felt like a complete bludgeoning in the paint. I texted you, Cory, too. I mean, they just have some big dudes, and I think it's going to be concerning against a team like Duke. I know Carolina has had their injuries. We don't have to talk about them, but
Duke doesn't play a dude under 6'6".
It's just going to be an absolute massacre down the paint. And I don't mean to crap on Lubin. He's doing everything he can offensively. I just think if you're NC State, you needed a guy maybe to come off the bench to be more of a defensive presence, and you thought maybe you would get that from Sagne. But if he's not even doing that, obviously right now the offensive floor seems sped up, so you're kind of out of options there. So I just think that the switching is working if you have a bigger presence on the interior side of the court. And I think NC State got lucky tonight, as you said, Cory. There's a couple 3-pointers that were like towards the deeper end of the second half. I was like, ooh, we left them open. We got lucky, but obviously not lucky enough tonight.
And they still got the rebound. And they still got the rebound. And they still got the rebound over and over and over again. It was just like there was literally a possession where Miami, I think it was pretty early in the first half, where I started realizing like NC State's just not getting any offensive rebounds. They got 3 offensive rebounds on one possession and finish it with a 3-pointer after missing, or finish it with a 2 after missing 2 3-pointers and a jumper. Like, they took 3 bad shots. You forced them into 3 bad shots, and you just didn't get the freaking rebound. Like, I want to. I think I got to find my guy, Steve Smith here. Just snapping. Rebounding is the biggest problem. State cannot rebound. If State could rebound, the season would look a lot different right now. Yeah, and look, there's, like Will Wade has talked about this a few times, said, the fact that, like, we can win games getting out rebounded, but we have to do so many other things right. You have to do so many other things, like you cannot turn the ball over. You have to be efficient on the offensive end. NC State did all those things tonight. Like, you didn't turn the ball over a ton. You were efficient on the offensive end. Like I said, they shot, if you take away those, end of game, end of first half, into the second half shots, NC State shot over 50% in this game, would have shot over 40% from 3. Like, those are great numbers. The issue is the fact that you just, like, there was just an unwillingness to get a defensive rebound. And there was quite a few offensive rebounds that Miami got that weren't just like, straight, offensive rebounds. It was like a ball that goes back to an NC State player. I want to say a couple times it was Darian Williams. Maybe a couple times it was, I remember there was one that went to Matt Able, and it got popped out of his hand, and they end up getting, another opportunity at it. But like there was just, it's not just like bad execution or not being in the right place. It was also just Miami not giving up on a chance at an offensive rebound, not giving up on a chance to be more physical than NC State. And that to me is where you cannot continue to get punked in the paint the way that NC State has over the last several games. Yes, you need to make free throws down the stretch. Yes, NC State needs to find more of a presence inside and figure things out on a more consistent basis, not just having to create easy shots for Ven-Allen and Lubin. But all of those things fall by the wayside when you are just not giving enough effort on the defensive boards to be able to handcuff a team if they're not being efficient enough. And look, Miami was efficient tonight, 48% shooting overall, but 3 of 17 from three-point range. The reason why their numbers are what they are, especially from the inside, is because they were able to get easy shots off, putbacks, instead of having to be forced to take jumpers, instead of having to be forced to take three-pointers. Like, all those things come into account here, and you absolutely cannot do all those things. Okay, Pat here saying, Cory with the bracket shows putting the cart before the horse. No, the entire bracket show was just talking about NC State's resume, where they stand. We're doing all these things as reporters. I don't play on the team. I don't coach the team. I'm going to do the journalism side of things. That's not how this works. You do all these things as we're getting closer to March because you want to give people perspective on where NC State stands. After this loss, NC State has just absolutely stepped in a pile of it right now. That's where you're at right now, because NC State, if you win this game, you won this game against Miami. If you won this game, you could have not only jumped Clemson in the standings and been third in the ACC standings with 5 games remaining in ACC play. You could have jumped them for third, and you have a win over Clemson, mind you. So that would have been that much more important to be 10-3 and tied with Clemson, because you would have jumped them. You also could have kept yourself inside the top 4 overall and done so in a really good fashion, because Miami was a team that was nipping at your heels. Instead, you now stay behind Clemson despite having a win over Clemson. You now fall behind Miami because you weren't able to beat Miami. So NC State is not only not in the top 3 in the ACC now, you drop outside of the top 4 overall. You're no longer you no longer control your own destiny to be able to be a top 4 team in the ACC and get a double bye. Those are all the things that happened for NC State tonight. I'm going to throw it back to you so you can talk about it. I apologize for eating up a bunch of that, but when I see people mentioning the fact that we're doing bracket shows, or the fact that we're, posting positive things, like, guys, we're going off of what the team is doing. We're going off of where the team stands. Right now, NC State is in a much worse position after this loss than they were 24 hours ago. 3 hours ago, because of the way that they lost this game and just the fact that they lost this game in general.
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself behind the 8 ball. I mean, in no way am I trying to find a positive light. I just looked through while you were talking, Cory. Miami's 20 offensive rebounds is the most they've gotten all year, and they have played teams such as Jacksonville, Bethune-Cookman, Stetson, Elon, Delaware State, and none of them had as much offensive rebounds given up as NC State gave Miami tonight. So, yeah, definitely not trying to look for the positive light, because and on the other hand, it gets a lot tougher. I mean, I think we kind of knew that coming into the year, that the back half of the schedule was going to be a lot tougher than the front half. I mean, we've beaten up on the bottom half teams of the ACC. I mean, the Clemson game obviously is the highlight from that, and the SMU game obviously is the highlight-ish from that, because they're sitting in the middle of the road. Right now, you really don't have any great, resume quality boosting wins other than Clemson on the road, who just got smacked by Duke in Cameron today. So while there is, opportunities down the road, it certainly doesn't mean those are going to be opportunities that you can, definitely take advantage of, because I think the scouts, increasingly getting easier for opposing teams. They've figured out, hey, if you can limit Copeland's playmaking abilities for others and just berate the rim, you're going to be in it until the end. And I think really, obviously, this game is a game that NC State should have had. You're up 7 with a minute to go. Plain and simple. If you can't get an inbounds pass in and you've got a 4th-year guard in Trey Holloman, you've got a 4-year guy in Darian Williams on the floor, you've got, I don't even know, Lubin, a 4th-year guy. I know that's not who you want catching the pass there at the end, but all these guys, the highlight for NC State and this team was we've got experienced guys. We've got guys that have been through this situation, but have done this. And I think that's the most infuriating part for Wolfpack, because he said he could see it coming with the effort. He could see, all this, kind of lackluster, non-effort, non-competitive, non-physicality. And I just think as NC State, if you want to keep a standard, that's just obviously not where you go. The shooting is going to be the shooting on a night-to-night basis. But bottom line, you can't get out-rebound 40-29. You can't struggle on back-to-back possessions to even inbound the basketball. I mean, I didn't even know what happened on the second one because I was sitting there typing up that Miami even got one of them to go down. So, yeah, my biggest problem is obviously that, but just would have loved the timeout. I was sitting there on the sideline going, "Are we going to call one? One?"
Yeah.
It sucks. Oh man, you just felt like State really just coughed up 4 or 5 chances to win it. So yeah, Now you slide down to 5th in the ACC. And I think it especially hurts NC State fans who are upset in this podcast, upset listening to this, whatever, is because of all the talk and all the rambunctious exclamation points that were given out preseason. I think all of that now is starting to, especially in the fashion that you lost tonight. Obviously, it falls on coaching, and that's the same coach that has promised, top half of the ACC, gonna make the tournament. Right now, if you're NC State, you're going to have to win a game that necessarily you might not were supposed to really feel comfortable about making the tournament. I mean, you're probably have to win 1 or 2 in the league tournament, and hopefully, obviously maybe Stanford's a given. Maybe I don't even know. Notre Dame on the road's a given. I feel like you got to beat one of Carolina and Duke.
I don't think anything's a given after we keep hearing about it, but the Georgia Tech loss too.
Yeah, I mean, none of it's really a given. I mean, you got UVA on the road. I don't see that going the right way. I mean, UNC and Duke, I feel like are your best opportunities, and I don't really know how you're going to stop Boozer on the inside, Ngamba on the inside for Duke. Obviously, Visar is a 7-footer for Carolina, good rebounding, and it's a guy that can stretch the floor. We'll see. I know they don't have Caleb Wilson, but it just feels like the matchups right now for NC State down the stretch are not going to be, the best influential, things for NC State. I think NC State thrives when there's not a, paint beast on the inside, and the rest of your schedule has one. So you're either going to have to double in the post, give help on the rebounding. I think Williams needs to have, like I said earlier, 8 or 9 rebounds when NC State was on this winning streak. Whether his points were there or not, at least he was finishing with assists and rebounds, and he did neither of those tonight. I mean, obviously got the dead ball technical, and that got him going. But damn, I mean, this is a sold-out crowd, dude. I mean, we gotta. That's the most infuriating thing. If the crowd wasn't here, I get it, man. Play how you want to, but it felt like a really loud crowd tonight, and they just got let down.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what you were saying beforehand too. Like, I wanted to point this comment out from Tucker. He said, answers aren't on the roster, plain and simple. And I think that's the frustrating part, because you won. Go back to the 6-game winning streak for NC State. They won a lot of those games by just hitting a ridiculous amount of shots. Like, you were able to shoot the 3-ball really well. Go back to, the Florida State game. You go back to Clemson, NC State hitting shots down the stretch that end up winning you games. And I want to go back to what you said. I mean, it's a very good point. The fact that this team going into the season, it was all about, here's how many minutes they have in the NCAA tournament. Here's how many games these guys have played in the NCAA tournament, how much experience we have. And all of those guys, with the exception of Tim Carson, all of those guys were on the court for you at the end of game scenario. All of those guys that you talked about, with the exception of Paul McNeil was out there. He's never played in the NCAA tournament. All these different things but the whole speech was, you've constructed a roster that knows how to win games, knows how to do the right things down the stretch, and none of these guys did down the stretch. And I think that is something that right now, I mean, not to beat up on the team here along those lines, because you are still, like, mind you, 18-8, 9-4 in ACC play. You're still in a very good position to make a lot of noise down the stretch. It's just kind of going back to what you said, like, can this team do it? And the doubt is starting to not only creep into your mind, but like it's becoming overwhelming now at this point after the way they've lost these last two games, because this team absolutely has to figure something out, like dig within yourselves to be able to kind of get this thing back on track, because it doesn't get any easier. You have UNC coming in on Tuesday that wants to prove a point despite the fact that they don't have Caleb Wilson. They want to prove that they're still a good team and they can win on the road. And NC State is a team that if you get shooting the right way, if you're able to find some physicality down low, you're able to offensive rebound still, you can beat this team. And NC State has to prove that that's not necessarily the case, and it's really hard to make that point right now.
Yeah, it's a thing that when you look at the preseason, we also knew that there was going to be limitations on the inside. You missed guys in the transfer portal that would have been that more of a rebounding defensive aspect, and you settle for what you have. Mm-hmm. And what you have is it's clear, it's obvious. The teams that you're playing against can see it as well. So, and now you just put on more film to show that, hey, we can't get an offensive rebound. Hey, we lack size on the interior. It's plain and simple. It really is. I mean, man, I really don't know where you go from here. I really don't. So I feel like the scout right now, if you're opposing teams, is so easy. Crash the glass. And I think what really hurt was, I think this is the main problem. There's not to put any excuse. You took over a roster that had one player, from last year. Yeah. One. I mean, that's about as deep and as bad as you can get it. And obviously, you've got this increased funding, you've got this increased support, it's a new coach, new regime. I think the money got spread too thin, plain and simple. I think it got spread too thin on one certain player who's not working out. And I think, obviously, you knew going into the season that you needed more size. And now that's been, obviously clear and evident. I mean, you gave up, 22 second chance points and 20 offensive rebounds. And you give Pitt 14 offensive rebounds. A team that UNC just beat by 20-plus at home. And you beat them by 9 because you got them 20-plus offensive rebounds. It's embarrassing. It's what hurts was you were in that realm. You were in that realm for top 4 ACC. You've taken the mic after.
They still can. Like,
still can. You gotta show something else. You gotta show something else. You can't rely on scoring 80-plus points a game. You can't do it. I mean, 76 points at home should be enough to win you a ball game. And I think what's most disappointing is you would have loved to have seen a better effort after what you saw on Monday in prime time. I mean, this game was on ESPN too. It's still on prime time, national eyes, national attention, and you just laid an egg on Monday in prime time, big Monday. Everybody's watching you, and you lost by 40-plus. We're never really in the ball game at all. And it got so bad that Pat Kelsey was just leaving his guys out there just to prove a point. I mean, he proved the point against NC State on Monday. I mean, left his star freshman out there to put 45 on us. And I mean, if that's not insulting enough for you, if you're an NC State player, if that's not insulting for the coaching staff, whoever, if that's not insulting for you enough to not come back and not get an offensive rebound at home in front of a top 10, like in terms of size-wise, attending crowd at home, I don't know what's going to get you excited. I really don't. Maybe a team in blue on Tuesday will get you excited, but I mean, I just think the scout right now is so easy. It's just, and I don't know where you look at. Maybe Ibube, more minutes. Maybe that's the goal. But he's not the best defender. He's going to foul. He's going to get 3 or 4 fouls really quickly. So I don't know. I don't know where you go.
Yep, that's about all I got from this one. We'll have more coverage from this game. We'll have more leading up to UNC on Tuesday night as well, and kind of what NC State needs to figure out, where it can go from here. We'll try to figure all that out, and I'm sure, look, you got 72 hours now at this point for NC State to try to figure that out, and I'm sure Will Wade and the entire coaching staff is already trying to figure out exactly what they can do to kind of combat this and get things going again. Again, a 77-76 loss for NC State. Just 52 seconds left to go. You're up 7 and you lose this game.
Makes Tuesday even more important now.
Yep, it's about as tough of a pill to swallow.
Don't want to parade around a player's injury, but you got a gift and their star player not being available. Man, if you can't get the job done on Tuesday without him playing, well, you're in trouble. You're going to be in massive trouble because UNC already has nothing to lose now. Their star players hurt, so even if they lose, that's going to be an excuse. But God Almighty, if you can't get it done Tuesday, if you're NC State without Caleb Wilson playing, oh boy, it's going to be a different problem than it was tonight.
Yeah, you'd go from a team that had a chance to get inside the top 3 in the ACC standings to being a team that could be looking outside of the top 6. Like you could be like pushing to not even have a bye anymore in the ACC.
Thought tonight was bad. Tuesday could get a lot worse and in a hurry.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that'll just about wrap things up. I'm going to try to get home and maybe salvage some of this Valentine's Day as well. So thank you to everybody for listening. Charlie, I appreciate you for hanging around for an extra almost hour now at this point to do this with me. Thank you to everybody for jumping in and giving us your comments. I try to throw as many up there as I possibly could to answer you guys' questions. Appreciate you guys for jumping on. We will talk to you again soon.